pod. And amidst all of the tumult and arguing and excitement and March Madness and everything going on in college athletics, there remains one person who is even more fascinating than all of the others, which is why Pat Forde went all the way to Chapel Hill, North Carolina to watch an 8-win college football team run around in shorts and T-shirts and practice. That's what you call knowing ball, Pat. That's doing some research. Bill Belichick is running practice now. It's getting closer to him actually being on the sideline, which I think in your very good column for Sports Illustrated was a bit like, is this rumor actually true? You don't believe it until you see it. I think you compared it to there's an elephant running through your neighborhood or something like that. And then there he is, Bill Belichick, actually coaching college football. He had a little press session, let you guys watch a little practice. How was it with Coach Belichick, Pat?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was surreal, and it is, yeah, the point, like, it's so strange that you really have to see it to begin to absorb it and believe it. And see, when he came out to the podium dressed in his UNC practice gear, it's like, oh, I guess this really is happening. And the press conference was interesting. You know, I mean, obviously there's been a million clips of him brusquely brushing aside questions back in his New England time, but that's not the way he's always handled the press, and that's not the way he handled this. I mean, he answered questions in a low monotone. He mentioned one player one time in response to a specific question about that player, Max Johnson, because he's not, I mean, he's the anti-Mac Brown in so many ways. He's not there to pump up individual players. Maybe when they actually start playing and performing well, he will. But it's all about the collective of the team. And so that's the way he's approaching everything. In generalities, they have no jersey numbers. They have no jersey names. The offense is out there in light blue shirts. The defense is wearing white shirts. The quarterbacks are wearing red shirts. And this was, I thought, a wonderful moment where somebody asked him, said, how did you explain to the players, you know, the way you're going to do that? He said, we didn't explain it. I mean, there's no explanations needed when you're Bill Belichick and you're talking to a bunch of college guys from a team that went 6-7. It's like, you know what? I don't know for sure who you are, and it doesn't matter who you are until you show you can perform. This is not going to be your, you know, star vehicle pampered program, that's for sure. So they got out there and they ran around a little bit, and it was a very quiet practice. I know, Ross, certainly you've been to practices, and the recent trend, maybe more so in basketball, but still in football too, is for it to be loud and upbeat and rah-rah, and everybody's yelling, and the strength coaches are running around like, yeah. And the grad assistants are supposed to run around and go, yeah. Guess what? That was not the case here. Maybe before they let us in or after they kicked us out, that was the case, but I doubt it. This was an NFL sort of atmosphere. I don't know if there's NFL execution going on, but it was a business-like professional deal. They're calling the program the 33rd NFL team, which is, I think, great marketing. They're certainly not going to be, they probably might not be the 33rd best college team, but they're using that as their recruiting vehicle. And it's going to be run as closely to a Bill Belichick NFL operation as they can do in college.
Anything surprise you, Pat? I mean, I know that you weren't around him maybe when he was coach of the NFL a whole lot, but I know he did the no names, you know, when he was in the NFL. So I guess that wasn't a surprise. But was there anything surprising that caught your attention that you didn't expect?
I would say, you know, just that again, he was pretty indulgent, I guess I would say, to the media. I mean, he thanked us for coming at the beginning and at the end, thanked us for our interest. And again, that runs counter to the stereotype of Bill Belichick of, you know, like, I don't care about any of you and I'm just here to fence with you and push you away. So he was a little bit more, I think, welcoming, and that could have something to do with he needs the media a little bit, you know? I mean, there's going to be plenty of it around, but it's not like they're an established juggernaut. And so I think, it's like, hey, come on in. And, the media, I think we were kind of unsure what to expect. And the other thing that's the great cosmic weirdness of this is Duke is playing North Carolina in a very big basketball game on Saturday. And we're all sitting at a North Carolina spring football practice. Nobody's ever cared about North Carolina spring football. And there's 40 people sitting there waiting to hear from Bill Belichick. That was unusual.
I covered Bill Belichick a lot as an NFL coach. I wasn't a beat writer, but I was certainly, they were the preeminent team for a long time. So I was at midweek press conferences, post-game press conferences, all that. He is not what the highlights or lowlights are. There are times he can be absolutely uncooperative. He hates stupid questions and will not tolerate them. But if you ask him questions about football, the history of football, if you ask a question that shows you've tried, or a very open-ended, best way to ask him a question was always, Bill, what happened in the last 2 minutes? Not, Bill, did you throw the ball too much in the last 2 minutes? Something like that. And he'll, because quite honestly, when you cover football, it's impossible to, until you've seen the tape, and know what the play was and the game. Like, you don't know whether a guy overthrew a receiver or the receiver didn't run the right route, or a running back didn't chip a block. I mean, it's such a complicated game. And so he never really had time for that part. If you ask a dumb question, or you're like, hey, Bill, what kind of candy are you handing out at Halloween? And through the years, it would become like sport to give him a hard time. But he is a stubborn guy. But he will answer. You ask him about, what makes a great long snapper, he'll go on for 5 minutes. So it's really about asking the right kind of question with him. But he can be very nice in person, all that stuff. He's not as crazy. That said, there are times, totally ridiculous answers, or, he would, if there was a bad loss, he would go directly to the media room sometimes, like, and hold the press conference like 1 minute after the game. So there'd only be like 3 reporters in there. And then he'd be like, you say, what happened on that final play? And he'd be like, I got to see the tape. I got to ask the player. And it's like, well, go in there and watch it and come back. He knew what he was doing at all times, but you have to parry with him. But yeah, he's not going to tolerate fools, and he's not going to sit there and he does not want to hear what you know about college, about the football game, or about football or anything like that. That will be and there are some long-winded questions in these press conferences. I thought one of his best quotes too was about someone asked, how something like, how did he think the players would do? And the quote was, how will they respond to his coaching or something? And it said, it's going to be up to each individual. I know we've got a good plan. I know we can do the right things to put a good product in the field. Everyone that buys into it and wants to be a part of it will be a part of it. And if they don't, they go somewhere else. That's their decision. He said it nicely, but that's pretty much it. It ain't going to be, pat in the backs, communication. We're going to play music. There's not going to be praising. He's not going to don't compare him to somebody. My lesson to my advice to the media: if a tight end all of a sudden makes 2-3 receptions, I'll say, does he remind you of Gronk?
That was always the Saban thing. No comparisons.
Yeah.
It always
They're the same guy.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
They're very similar. They're from the same area of the country. They're really good friends. Saban worked for him. Yeah, right. So what would say if you said compare? What would Saban say, Ross?
What would Saban say if you asked him about comparing somebody?
Teams.
Well, he would usually snap at you in some way. First off, right? Or he would snap that I don't do comparisons. I remember his the kind of the staff around him, the media staff around Saban always, if you were somewhat new or they anticipated a comparison question, they'd make sure to tell everybody, right, in the media, like, please don't ask them to compare things. We don't want to set them off, because
Right.
it always would. It would be the first thing to
Yeah.
set them off. It would be a comparison.
Yeah. One of the things I like about coaches like a Saban and a Belichick, I mean, sometimes they're just going to get mad because they want to get mad, but they force the media to ask better questions, to at least think about your questions. And I'm not excluding myself from this, but I think in general, the media does a bad job asking questions. We don't think about them. We talk too long. We ask multi-part questions. You ask yes, no. There's a lot of things we could do better in that respect. And certain coaches will kind of hold you to a standard of, don't come in here half-assing with bad questions. I'm okay with that.
That is very true, especially look, I was one of them for a long time. We all were, probably to an extent. The local beat writer. Again, I was in my early mid-20s in doing the same thing, but it's like the long-winded questions where the question is longer than the answer. They I think Belichick and Saban both require a little more editing to your questions in thoughtfulness.
Yeah, I know you guys don't watch a lot of hockey, but the ABC ESPN sideline, if you call it side rink, I don't know, whatever, reporter Emily Kaplan she's the best at just going, what happened on that goal? And then the player describes it. She's the best at it's very, because everyone else is like, so did you see an open corner or did the defense break down? And it's like, well, neither of those things are accurate, or don't put me in, everyone's always asking. So yeah, Belichick's going to be, and he will have to deal with college. I mean, it's not like an NFL. It's like the NFL reporters are some grizzled, perfect crew of journalists by any means. I mean, we're sports writers. I've asked a million bad questions, and I've had Belichick, glare at me pretty good too. But it does sharpen you up, because you don't want to be on Sports Center. It's very Bob Knight like.
Yeah,
you're like, I don't want to set the guy off, but you're going to be. It's a lot different when you're writing for the Daily Tar Heel. And I think he's going to have to get to that. I think Saban, go ahead.
No, that's a good point. And I will say, I think we went like 15 minutes yesterday. And I think that the UNC PR folks, the SID people, steered the questions pretty much to the more experienced journalists in a way. I'm not sure they let any of the younger college age type people in the room ask any questions, probably for a good reason.
Well, I think Belichick he needs to adapt to them, because it's a college.
Yeah, he does.
But I don't think, but that's how he's going to deal with players. I mean, look, the media thing's going to be the media thing, whatever.
Right.
I think Saban, I saw an interview once where Saban said Miss Terry lectured him that he needed to be better with the media. He says, you're always yelling at them. You're belittling. Like, why? Of course, people think you're a jerk, and now he's one of us. But, so maybe he got a little better at it. Anyway, the part to me is the way he's going to treat the players. Belichick, we have not seen yet, which doesn't really mean anything. We have not seen a flux of guys of the transfer portal just jumping to Bill Belichick. He did well in recruiting, well in the portal, but nothing out of line so far with North Carolina. And I think that's going to be the big question, is how many of these players are going to say, I want this? Because Pat, you talked about him out there coaching everyone and how he had a quote, I get to coach every position. I can do whatever I want. I'm the head coach. And the one thing I heard about Belichick, I can't remember the Patriot that said this to me, but he's so good at football, he could have been a position coach at any position in the NFL. So any position on the field, offense or defense, he could be your position coach. And that is exceedingly rare. So that's what they got to sell, is you're going to get Bill Belichick hands-on. I'm not up in a tower. We're not going to be patting you on the back and all that stuff. But when we're on that field and we're going through film room, I'm working directly with you to make you better. That's what he's got to sell. That's what he needs the media to do. But regardless, you saw some of that in this little window that we had here.
Yeah, the drills that we had, he wasn't physically hands-on with anybody. That was all the position coaches and stuff. But he did say that. He said that the good thing about being a head coach is I can go over to any position group at any time, and he will. He has great interest in every part of the job. He always has. I mean, he came up as a defensive guy, but he was immersed in offense for quite a while. He loves special teams. Is ate up with various ways to find a way to block a kick or cover a kick, and so that's going to be part of it. The one drill thing we saw, and again, this was 15 minutes. The first thing they did, basically, other than the lineman hitting the sled, but was ball security. And if you want to extrapolate, well, how do you take a mediocre team and try to get 2 or 3 wins better? Is win turnovers. And they had all the backs grabbing soaked footballs out of a tub of water and running through dummies, and they were trying to knock them out. And I've seen 100 times guys trying to knock balls out of players' hands. I'm not sure I've seen the soaked ball part of it, so that was interesting. And then the defense, the first thing they did was have them shed a medicine ball and then pick up a football that was loose on the ground. So, that's probably going to be an area of emphasis, because that's one way that's easy to make a team better. And they'll get to scheme eventually. Probably when the media isn't around.
I'm surprised he let media in. Given his reputation, I'm surprised you guys were in for how long? What did you?
15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they run NFL training camps are run with crowds.
Right. Yeah.
It's not hard. There's parts of practice you don't get to watch for sure, unless you got a camera. Dun 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 dun. Hidden in the stadium. No, allegedly. But I mean, the NFL is not a lot of secrets to it. They got 2,000 people there, 1,000 people there, standing on hills, watching, videotaping with their cell phone. I mean, there's not a lot of Connor Stallion's defense mechanisms going on. You just watch. That Brady guy's pretty good. That Brady to Moss, that might work.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's kind of used to that. There'll be some small adjustments. I remain fascinated at how this will go. I will remain fascinated with this will go. What?
Who knows? And that's, the staff is interesting. It's very, both of his sons are on the staff. Michael Lombardi, the GM, his son is on the staff.
Family affair.
Yeah. Is it a little too much old boy network? I mean, most everybody on the staff is somebody he previously worked with, in the NFL or not. But I would, if I won 6 Super Bowl rings, I would want people I had previously worked with me too, because it's worked. So that's going to be wait and see. And then, how they do in recruiting. They got a 4-star quarterback who enrolled early, Bryce Baker, who I think there's a chance, depending how ready he is, that he could be an instant impact guy, because they need a quarterback. So quarterback development will be big. And this is going to be incredibly curious. And I remember, the anticipation to see Deion Sanders' first Colorado team was very high, and he delivered spectacularly in that first game against TCU. Well, lo and behold, the first team that Bill Belichick's going to play is TCU as well. Poor Sonny Dykes, he gets to be the supporting actor in 2 major dramas. But I have no idea, and he's not going to sit here and say, well, offensively we're looking good at this position or that position. I think it's just going to be, well, we'll see.
He'll never say that.
Right.
I covered a preseason game of his once, and they got crushed. I can't remember the year. Like crushed. It was like week 3, and he came in and did this rant and like this team, you know, they don't know how to line up. This is the worst. We might be 0-17. Granted, they had, you know, Brady and Edelman and all these guys. And then I think they played Miami in the opener. It's like 2 weeks later. This is when they had 4 preseason games. And so the 4th one was just whatever. But you could not, and they did. They played horrible, and he just crushed them. And then they go down to, I think they played Miami. Maybe it was at home. I can't remember. There's a lot of games. And they won dominant week 1 victory. And I think I asked him after what happened in the last 2 weeks. Like tried to one of these open-ended, right? Like obviously there was great improvement. And he just was like, that's the preseason. That was like his answer. Just like, whatever I said 2 weeks ago is not true. He's like, I don't know. Yeah, preseason. But he will never be. I mean, I think that there was a great thing on Fox. They had Brady, Gronk, and maybe Edelman, somebody else. And they asked, this was before when they asked, do you think Bill Belichick can be a college coach? And they all said no because of the recruiting. And Brady had some line like, you know, you can come here if you want. I don't know. Are you any good? You know, I'm not sure you're any good. You know, like, and this is what he would say to Tom Brady. That was one of their secrets, was he would undress Tom Brady. He would crush Tom Brady in film sessions in front of the whole team. He was hardest on Brady and the stars. And then the rest of the team would be like, my God, like, because they show up. Brady's now like 14 seasons into his career. Like, this is the legend. I watched this guy win the Super Bowl sitting in my living room. Oh, my God. And then it'd be the meeting, and he'd just be tearing Brady apart. And they all be like, if he does that to him. So this is going to be, this could work spectacularly. There could be like mid-season transfer hits. I mean, this generation might be, put on your, you know, fasten your seatbelt. Step in. This is going to be great.
Yeah, it's I have no idea, but I am completely fascinated by just this whole idea, the whole premise, and then what the implementation looks like.
Okay, one more little bit on North Carolina, not football. Pat, do you know why they extended Hubert Davis?
No.
What is the story here? They did it last summer and then didn't announce it until the middle of a bad season.
Yeah,
interesting.
I'm not sure it even really got announced.
I don't think it was announced.
Somebody broke it and then they like acknowledged it.
It was public record stuff, wasn't it?
It's kind of a weird way to celebrate a contract extension.
Yeah. Should tell you what they think of it. Right?
I think Bubba Cunningham and everyone in the Roy Williams family tree, which is almost, you know, it's immense, really wants it to work for Hubert Davis. Really wants it to work. And last year they were good. They were a number 1 seed. They got beat by Alabama, a really good Alabama team, didn't go to the Final Four. So I think the feeling was, okay, Hubert shocked shocked Duke in the final, in Coach K's final game, maybe the greatest regular season win in North Carolina history, then beat him again in the Final Four. We went to the national championship game. The next year we sucked, but then we came back and we were a number 1 seed. We gotta invest. We believe in this guy because we want to believe in him. And what the reality is, they've had 2 very disappointing years. One really good year that didn't get to a Final Four. One kind of disappointing year that did get to a Final Four. So it's been a really mixed bag. And I think the resulting contract extension for him is couched in how much they want the whole Dean Smith family tree to perpetuate and continue to do well.
It was just the timing was really weird.
Yeah. Yeah, and then having it come out, right? Like, I mean, I wish they would have just come out last summer and said, you know what? We won 29 games last year or whatever. We believe in Hubert. We're giving him this extension.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about maybe why this is all going down next after this break. All right, we're going to briefly get to this hyped up congressional NIL hearing. This is like part 13 or something. Didn't they first go there in like 2019?
Yeah, it was December. Mark Emmert's first trip on the Hill was December of 2019. At least his first trip to lobby, for an NIL kind of congressional bill. So 2019. Yeah, that's right. 5 years, Dan, and 11 hearings. I believe this. I think this was the 11th NIL related hearing.
5+ years, 3 different presidential terms.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
4 Congresses. We're just going along here.
Yeah.
Just flips back and forth. Remember how we always say billable hours are undefeated in college athletics? The lawyers, lobbyist hours are really undefeated. Quickly, nothing got done is what it descended into Washington politics descended into Washington politics is what I heard.
Yeah. They call this informational or educational hearing. All of these basically have been that. Because there's no bill they're bringing forth to discuss, right? All these are like subcommittee hearings where they're just educational. And this House Commerce Subcommittee has held a hearing previously. This was the famous one that about 2 years ago, where you had lawmakers who from certain states who went to certain SEC schools who dressed up in the colors and logos of their schools. And one barked like a dog. The other did the gator chomp. So we actually didn't have a lot of that this time around. We had some, go blue. We had some go dogs, but not a ton of other that. What we did have, though, is Dan, 5 minutes into the hearing, into the NIL hearing, the hearing became a lot about political issues that divide Republicans and Democrats. This one being the cutting of funding to universities through grants and things like that. So the Democrats peppered the witnesses, some of them not about NIL, but about the cutting of grant funding, which obviously some of them probably had little to no knowledge about. I think one specific exchange stood out more than the others, and that was, I think it was Kathy Castor of Florida, a congresswoman, a Democrat, asked Emily Cole, who was a witness from Duke, she's a track athlete, asked her about her experience in research, the research department at Duke, tying it into the cutting of the research dollars. And Emily Cole was basically like, I'm not here to discuss my research at Duke, ma'am. So that was so that's what it turned into. There was some back and forth that was interesting related to NIL, Dan, but probably 70s.
No progress.
Nothing. Yeah, no. I think to me, I came away from the hearing, and not just the hearing, but combined with President Trump's address to the joint Congress a couple days ago. When you combine those two things, you come away with a clear, obviously, division between Democrats and Republicans on a bunch of different issues. This being one that we're probably further away than maybe most thought to a bill being passed. And there was and there still is a lot of optimism in Ted Cruz in the Senate pushing something through, but he continues to look for a Democrat supporter to introduce a bill so that it will be bipartisan. And I think a lot of people thought by the end of February, certainly by the end of March, that would happen. And I don't know that that's going to happen as quick as people thought. And quickness is important with this. It is important for the college administrator side, at least, to get a bill this Congress where everything is red. The Senate, the House of Representatives, in the White House, all Republican. The Republicans have been more, pro-NC leaning on a bill. So there's a thought that it really needs to happen this year. There was a push for it to even happen before the settlement approval date on April 7th. And there is no way now that that's happening. So everybody's divided. It's a divisive time on Capitol Hill. My wife works up there, and it's just, if the college sports bill doesn't happen this year, it's probably not necessarily going to be about college sports, right? It's going to be about all these other political issues and all the divisiveness and disagreement between Republicans and Democrats in general.
Boy.
Yeah,
where'd they hear that before?
This is this is the problem of, we've said it all along, taking your problems to Congress. Good luck. You're throwing a Hail Mary on a windy, rainy day and hoping your guys come down with it. And even now with, as Ross said, with a alignment in terms of who's in control and who has the gavels in various committees and stuff, it ain't going to be easy to make it happen. So this is the game plan for the NCAA has always been pretty perilous, I thought, and hoping for a prayer to be answered.
Yeah, this good luck. I've said this all along. There's a lot of people are going to tell you you're going to get stuff done in Washington, and they're going to take your money, and then it's not going to get done. You got to solve your own problems. If you're reliant, if an industry is sitting there reliant, and there's disagreement within the industry, it's not like something obvious where the lumber industry would like to cut down trees or something, right? Something basic in there. I don't even know. But something like this, and these hearings, they if you pay the right guy, they just stack the hearing with people, right? With witnesses that are all aligned on the same side.
Well, each side picks, yeah. So I think there are 5 witnesses maybe. And you could tell the Democrats picked probably 1 or 2, and then the Republicans picked, 3 or 4. And they went back and forth, Democrats and Republicans, asking questions to these members. And a lot of the questions you could tell, a lot of it's set up, right? A lot of it's set up for the answers. And that was pretty obvious. The witnesses there, obviously of notoriety, were Shane Beamer, the South Carolina football coach, and in Illinois athletic director Josh Whitman were probably the 2 most notable kind of in college athletics. There were two athletes, and there was Justin Falconelli of the College Football Players Association, who was arguing for collective bargaining, talked about collective bargaining. So each witness had kind of a little niche, right? Shane Beamer talked about the transfer portal and the how it impacts coaches. Josh Whitman talked overall, I think, about the issues they're having with the different state laws and how that could contradict the settlement. That's something we haven't really talked about, Dan, but there are state laws popping up now. We saw this when the NIL era came into fruition, is you had state laws that were kind of contradicting what NIL was supposed to be about, to give their states, obviously their state schools, the advantage. Now we're seeing that with the rev share. We're seeing state laws pop up that give their schools an advantage during the rev share era, but these state laws contradict the settlement. A lot of completely contradict the settlement. So, and I talked to Josh Whitman, the Illinois AD, about that after the hearing, and it's like one of the reasons that the NCAA and college administrators are on the Hill lobbying for a congressional bill. One of the reasons is to preempt these state laws, the same state laws that many of them are encouraging their state lawmakers to pass. It's just, yeah.
This is the thing. Like they're so, in general, they spend so much time trying to create a level playing field and by creating the level playing field, it's an unlevel playing field, because nothing dictates whether you're going to win more than how much money you got and where you're located. It's where you're located more than anything. I don't care how much more money Iowa gets from the Big Ten than Clemson gets from the ACC. It helps to be 2 hours from Atlanta, where all the players want to come play. Like it's always an unlevel playing field. And so, if anything, the Beamer thing was interesting. I certainly believe he speaks from the heart on all of this thing. But man, the transfer portal is really good for a place like South Carolina. football. Like, you got a fighting chance. And
he said that. He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. He mentioned how beneficial it's been.
And so that's hard for me to sit there if you're a fan of South Carolina and go, well, yeah, my coach, it's kind of sucks for coach, but this is good for me. There was a great column and I thought this was really, really interesting that it happened. And I'm not surprised because he's a really good, always been a really good columnist. But Don Williams at the Lubbock Avalanche Journal a couple weeks ago wrote, Texas Tech should hope Judge Wilkins rejects the House case. And he made a lot of the obviously I'd like it because he made a lot of the same points, but his basic thing is this is the best thing that could happen to Texas Tech is what's going on now. And he had a line in here, he was talking about how good football, football, men's basketball, track and field, golf, and softball teams are all better off because of NIL and the end of the transfer restrictions. He said, if you root for Tech, you should hope the judge doesn't ratify this. One of the things the settlement do is curtail NIL spending. The donor collectives would be kneecapped with it, the free market, and with it, the free market for athletes' talent. That what was deemed the good old days was good for the certain establishment programs that had an advantage, like we're closer in the state of Texas to where the kids live, the recruits live, than Lubbock. But the new one evens the playing field and allows someplace like Texas Tech. And Ted Cruz represents the whole state of Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think when this kind of column is starting to come out in local media and more local fans sit there and say, hey, this has been great. We just talked about North Carolina not having a good season. I mean, look at this basketball season. Look at this top 10. Houston, Auburn, number one. Remember a couple of years ago, they went number one for the first time ever. Houston, Duke's 2. That's great. You can still do it. Houston is 3. Texas Tech's in the top 10. Iowa State's in the top 10. I don't know, Pat, you got the rest of them, but St. John's was all of a sudden really good again. Like, all these other schools should not be wanting to go back to the good old days because they weren't any good.
Right. No,
and when does that seep into Congress where the representative of Lubbock and West Tech, someone's representing that area, and I'm guessing they are a conservative Republican, and they go, why am I supporting this? This is good for our school, our place. Okay.
No. Yeah, no, you're right. That we have seen enough mobility up and down the hierarchy that there are a lot of places that should love the current atmosphere and the ability to, wheel and deal to a degree your way into competitiveness. And, the expectation is there that Texas Tech in football is one of those teams on the way up. They have arrived in basketball. As you said, they went to a Final Four not long ago, but this year in the top 10 and really good. Iowa State, same. Houston has done really well in the transfer market in basketball. St. John's, you mentioned them with Booster Mike Rapoli, the vitamin water guy, who's also a big thoroughbred horse owner, but he's the one that broke the news last year, Derby Week, that they were going to sign Kadari Richmond from Seton Hall because they had the money to do it, and he's been a game changer for them. That's the thing. If you can go out and get enough key pieces, you change your fortunes quickly, like what Indiana football did. Nobody knew at the time that getting 11 guys from James Madison was going to be transformational, but it was, and you can do that now. So these are the kind of things that, yes, there's a lot of places out there. They should love the current climate.
And there's certainly a lot of places out there that I think they do want the House settlement to fail, to not be approved even. I don't know that, everybody is on board, especially the last few months where you've seen some of the holes come out potentially in this settlement. There's a surprising number of people who were maybe on board in October or even back in the summer or so, who aren't necessarily 2 feet in any longer.
Yeah.
But it's too late now, right?
It's too bad because this will not be good. What we have is better. It just is. And they can look at the testimony people gave 5 years ago was completely misguided. I mean, it just was. And again, look at this top 10. Auburn, Duke can still do it. Houston, which they got a great coach. Tennessee's always a very strong program. They got a great coach, but they're popping. Florida's back. St. John's is good. Alabama, Michigan State, Tom Izzo, right? Your oldest school coach, doing fine. Might win the title. Texas Tech, Iowa State, Clemson. These are all. It used to be Nike and Adidas gets to choose where the players go and who makes the Final Four to a degree. They stack the deck, and we're like, yeah, we got to go back to that. That's much better. No, it's not. What do we want out of that? It's just the House settlement. They lobbied for stuff and they come up with stuff that doesn't represent reality. And I think there's more and more schools and certainly more and more fan bases and more media sitting there going, wait a minute, this is way better. Sorry, North Carolina, you don't get to go 30-2 every year. You got to earn it. Sorry, Kansas, you don't get to win 10 straight league titles. You got to earn it. Because you know what? It's great to play basketball at Houston, too. It's great to play basketball at Texas Tech. Just because we don't have a $200 million shoe deal, it's still, we have a level playing field. Iowa State's got a fighting chance. They never had a fighting chance before. So we'll see what happens with this House case. It's probably going to get ratified, but it is not a good day. And it is a failure of leadership to go with the fear-mongering of the fear of their original opinion or ease of their job over the competitive balance and excitement of all college sports. And so, go ahead.
Dan, to wrap all this up into what we first talked about, a congressional bill, I don't think college administrators would be lobbying so hard for a congressional bill if they didn't know that they needed it, right, to enforce the settlement, enforce the rules around the settlement. So many people thought maybe the settlement, because it was a legal, agreement with a court and all this stuff, that it would protect the NCAA and the power conferences from enforcing rules. I think it shows you their lobbying effort shows you that's not the case. They need a congressional bill to protect them from enforcing to enforce their rules, but also from future lawsuits. And we talked about it in day one, right? There are probably 3 lawsuits that will be filed. I say day one, I mean in the first few months or so, maybe. Over Title IX, the distribution of revenue over Title IX and gender equality, over the anti-competitiveness of the cap that they have on there, in the clearinghouse, rejecting, what they deemed to be phony deals. Those are 3 things that there's going to be lawsuits over.
The Forde household wants the settlement to be ratified because there's a couple kids that may get at least a little back damage.
A little back damage pay for the swimmers.
Let's go. Bring it in.
That's not what your country can do for you, Pat. Ask what you can do for your country.
Thank you, JFK.
Why don't you just give Brooke the money she owes off your profits off this podcast?
Yeah.
Cut her in. We'll cut her in.
Pat, the amounts are they? I mean, they're not significant for.
If you're on Pat's salary, they are. Let's be nice to the
all right. Yeah. I'm barely rubbing 2 nickels together over here. I'm gonna
making bank off this pod.
Off of their
high-priced talent on the pod. He's trying to renegotiate his NIL deal.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I'm not out here hawking footballs.
Nice. I know. Tell me about it, man. Still buy them, I'm sure. If you want to go check it out. All right. We're going to be back. I got long odds. I'm gonna tease our final segments here. Long odds. Huh? So did you see how well, by the way, I tied the Hubert Davis into the settlement? Like, I think I did pretty good.
Perfect.
That was a pretty professional transition there. You're getting there.
702 more shows to get this down. We'll be right back. You guys, were you watching the George Mason Holy Cross baseball game the other day? I'm sure you were.
Oh, yeah.
You know what?
It's glued.
I never miss a
TV.
George Mason baseball game.
Yeah.
George Mason Holy Cross. Well, Holy Cross, they played the other day, and George Mason put it up on the old Crusaders. They scored 23 runs in the second inning en route to a 26-6 victory. By the way, good job, Holy Cross. You outscored them 6-3 in the other 8 innings.
Just that one inning.
Yeah. But this is one of the great, almost unbelievable stat lines you will ever see in any baseball game ever. The 23 runs that George Mason scored, they sent 31 batters to the plate. Holy Cross went through 5 pitchers. 5 guys got hit by a pitch. There were 2 errors. There were 2 stolen bases. There was 1 pass ball. And there were 11 hits, none of which were a home run. George Mason grinded out a 23-run inning. Now, 23-run inning. Not going to see a lot of those, but generally it is just like you're gassed. You got a guy throwing lobbing balls in there. There are going to be some dingers. There are going to be some tape measure shots. I guess. I don't know how many 23s there ever has been. 23 with grit? With some dog in you? They had 19 runs with 1 out.
Oh, my.
I am going to read you the play-by, or I don't know, if the box score, whatever this would be. Okay? Here it is. Ground out. So they were looking good. They had a ground out.
Yeah.
One
got
down.
an opening out.
One down. And I think the analytics say like you're now less likely to score a run, right?
Mm-hmm.
Walk, single, hit by pitch, double, single, hit by pitch, fielder's choice, double, walk, hit by pitch, walk, double,
God.
single, hit by pitch. What is this fielder's choice? I don't get this. Hold on, because isn't fielder's choice?
That would be the third out,
That's
right?
an out.
That'd be a second out. Okay,
Second out. Yeah.
there was not an out there.
Mm.
The fielder's choice must have just been he threw it to nobody.
That would be an error, though, right?
I'm confused. Anyway,
Unless it's the fielder's choice, like he was trying to get somebody at third and he slid in safe.
right? Maybe
You know
he
what I mean?
ran
Instead
it.
of throwing
Yeah.
to first, they threw it to third.
So they didn't give a hit.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't give a
Right.
hit. Okay,
Right.
so whatever.
Right.
If that didn't work, now
Whatever that is.
whatever that was didn't work. I need a bookmark. I now can't remember where I was. Walk. Let's just start with some walks. Walk, double, single, hit by pitch,
Oh, my
double.
God.
Dude, the trainer had to do some work. Pop out. I mean, at that point, when you pop out, like, do you go back to the dugout and just get absolutely crushed by your teammates?
Absolutely.
Like, come on, dude. Just stand there and take a ball off the shoulder. You're going to get hit by it. Walk, double, single, walk, single, fielder's choice out.
Man. Yeah, the one who made the third out probably needs to transfer.
I think they were exhausted.
Yeah.
They almost went through 3 times.
31 players batted, you said, right? That's more than 3
That was
times.
more than 3.
Yeah.
3 at bats. Imagine the old school where you're writing you got the little book.
No, God.
It's a total disaster.
You gotta write like 4 point, like you gotta shrink it down, like
Need 2 books.
19 consecutive hitters for George Mason reach base. So they went through the lineup twice. Everyone got hit.
I have a
Adding the old
couple
stats there.
Yeah, I have a couple observations here. One, let's talk to the Holy Cross pitching coach. Let's see if we can sharpen up that group there. Okay. I mean, I know Worcester is probably not a hotbed of baseball, but 5 hit by pitches and how many walks? I don't know. But secondly, this would be like getting pecked to death by chickens. I mean, if there's at least some home runs involved, there's some hard shots, but the walk, hit by pitch, single stuff. Oh my God.
5 doubles.
Me nuts.
Only 5 doubles.
Wow. I think Ross Dellenger might have come across my radar for the first time when he was covering LSU baseball.
Oh, God.
And you were the most diligent tweeter
it wasn't
of
good.
baseball. I know, it was incredible. I was like, I actually would get sucked into games because
I think I used to mute Ross during baseball season.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. That's when you were going through that inning, it reminded me of those days covering college baseball and how baseball doesn't have a clock, and so you never know when it's actually going to end, and it would go on and on and on at times.
I'd get sucked in. LSU pitching change, 4th inning. What happened to the starter? What went wrong?
Just bet like $500,000 at a Cincinnati casino in the game, and don't worry about it.
My last year covering the daily LSU baseball this is the 10th year anniversary. It was 10 years ago this spring that the last time I covered baseball. I went to every game, covered every. I think I was the only reporter in the country. The Advocate was the only newspaper in the country to send a beat reporter to every single game, including South Bend, Indiana, where LSU played at Notre Dame in midweek series. I went to South Bend, Indiana. LSU baseball is wild. The following is crazy. I'd compare it to Kentucky basketball. Maybe not that big, but on that, close to that level.
Incredible. Well, that is that's a game story if I ever heard of one. That's just poor Holy Cross. Plus, you run out of pitchers by the second. Then they held them down.
Yeah. Whoever the left fielder they brought in the 3rd inning calmed everything down.
Oof. I'd start hitting guys too. I just forget it. Just cut me. Just cut me. This team stinks. I don't think they don't get scholarships at Holy Cross. But you would think it would be like somehow like Holy Cross had to play like Alabama or something, Tennessee. And it's just a total mismatch.
Yeah.
Somehow like in some tournament or something, like something got screwed up. But this was, did we know George Mason was this good?
They were wagging. Who knew?
George Mason's like back at the dorms. Like, yeah, man, I had 3 hits in the 2nd inning. What do you think, ladies? My favorite, one of my favorite college sports movies. Everyone wants some. The great college baseball movie. Just tremendous. Same guy that put out Dazed and Confused and all that. Tremendous movie. Me and Sully Vol, we love it.
Yes, I remember you guys bonding over that.
Yeah, I think we did like a half hour talking about how much we love it. Sully Vol, great volunteer fan. All right, here, finally, this one. This is like out of everyone's drunken dreams of a plot of a story, okay? So in Texas, they have, you got like Mass Million or whatever, Mega Bucks. You got the big Powerball, right? The big ones, right? And sometimes they get, it's like 7 numbers and there's an extra number and sometimes there's a letter in there. So I don't know. Well, Texas has got one of the normal ones that just do smaller amounts of numbers. It might be only 4. I'm not sure. But it comes out 3 times a week. And usually the pots are smaller, right? Most states have this. Well, no one was winning. And the pot in April of 2023 reached $96 million because no one, they weren't hitting. So it rolls over. It got to $96 million. Well, the number combination that they have, there's only 25.8 million possible winning numbers. So there's only 25.8 million combinations that can win the lottery.
Yeah.
And you can buy a ticket for $1, but you could win $96 million if you hit. Because you always think about that with the $1 billion, right? If you buy Powerball and you're like, well, what if I buy, could someone buy $500 million in tickets or $1 million in tickets? Would I win? But no, they have so many combinations. It's too high. Well, here was a flaw in the system. So this is all this incredible Houston Chronicle story. This story is going to be a movie. I guarantee it. Okay. If this thing hasn't been optioned yet, call me. I'll option it. This British betting company decided to bankroll and buy 25.8 million tickets. Buy every possible combo for $1. Now, the risk was if two other people had even one other, but certainly two, because you got taxes involved here, right?
Yeah.
But if 1 to 2 other people also hit, you'd have to share the prize, and therefore you wouldn't get 25. You wouldn't get 96 million. You'd get whatever 30.2, and after taxes, you're screwed. You lost a lot of money. So there was risk, but they went for it, and lo and behold, they nailed it. And
solo winner, no other winners?
Solo winner. And I think you don't get the full prize because there's other things, but they ended up with a one-time payment of $58 million in April of 2023. So it was not revealed. Money,
basically.
They spent $25.8 million and got $58 million, okay, on one lottery. And this is, again, like every time you see this, you don't really calculate the numbers. You're like, I could do this, right? Could this happen? No, it can't, except it did. Now, the scam here, so incredible, right? Just fascinating. Yeah. But the problem is there's now a major investigation. And again, this Houston Chronicle story is incredible. Is how in the hell did you get 25.8 million tickets printed in like 2 days?
Yeah.
Right? You can't just stand at the 7-Eleven and deploy.
One guy punching in numbers.
Like, even if you sent 1 million guys out there, you have to have like 1 million guys go to like all these different places. 1 million lottery. There aren't 1 million. So you can't just be like, I need 10,000 and I need this. I got to fill out, right? Because now you're you're not quick picking it. Yeah, you're like, no, I want number 4, number 8, number 12, number 16, whatever it is. And you're a guy, like, you run out of number 2 pencils. The guy, they'd run out of paper and ink. The guy at the liquor store would be like, get the hell out of here. So how could this even be done? How could you put this operation together in 2 days? Because the lottery's getting picked every 3 times a week. So 4 Texas retailers, they find out, that normally have 1 lottery machine or maybe 2, were given 10 new lottery machines before the drawing.
Oh.
And they just started printing tickets out of this thing.
Suspect.
Yes. So how could this happen? So now the state of Texas is investigating this lottery victory and whether the Texas Lottery Commission had like high-ranking people in on the deal.
Yeah, inside job.
Inside job. And the conclusion, Governor Abbott is on this, as they should. If we can't trust the lottery, what can we trust?
I know, right?
And so his conclusion, which I think everyone's conclusion, is either they're in on it or they're completely incompetent and didn't notice that someone bought 25 million tickets.
This is incredible.
So there is a class action suit against the lotto players, against the commission. This is going to be like, this is, and then someone like, everyone's presumed innocent, but let's say someone ends up in the clink. Like, you don't want to be in it. We talked about states you want to go to prison. Texas ain't one of them.
Oh, no, thank you.
What are you in for? Dude, I tried to rig the lottery. Like,
lottery
gas
fraud.
chamber. So, Pat, your thoughts on this?
Man, I mean, like,
People's
I love
Court
the
fired
hustle.
up.
I love the hustle. I really do of even trying to pull this thing off. So I would definitely be lenient with that, but it does, like, it completely defies common sense how you could have pulled it off. So I want to see him get to the bottom of this and figure out how many people were involved in rigging it, and then you have to decide, yes, did they betray the trust of the people, Dan? Did they betray the trust of the guy that walks into the same gas station in Dallas or Fort Worth where the beer bandit came out with all those cases of beer? You know, that guy needs to be able to trust when he puts his $5 in that the lottery is not rigged against him by some British betting pool. But I admire the fact that they even tried it. So I think I would be pretty lenient in general.
You know, the lottery is just this sacred entity, right? Like, if we don't have a kosher lottery, what can we do?
Exactly.
What can we have in the world, right? Man, lock them all up, Dan. Lock them all up.
Wow.
I agree. We need this kind of regressive tax against the working class. No, even back in the day when the mob ran these things, before there were state lotteries, they would use the last 3 numbers, the last 6 numbers of the New York Stock Exchange. So you would buy a slip and here's your 4 numbers, right? And then you would check what the Dow Jones Industrial Average is. And if whatever last 4 numbers came in on that was the lottery. Because even the mob knew you can't fix that, right?
Yeah.
Right.
No one's going to be able to fix that. So you'd get that's how it came out in the newspaper. And you check the stock pages, and there's the Dow Jones average. And it's okay, 3068, that's the winner. They knew that the people had to trust it. Even though they were engaged with, Jimmy No-Nos was who they were giving their money to. They were like, well, he can't fix Wall Street. The mob's got a lot, the lottery's got a lot, they ain't got as much as Wall Street. So this is it. And the local paper's going to print the right thing. There's a Don King story, because Don King was the boxing guy.
Yeah.
The boxing
He was a number
promoter.
runner?
Oh, yeah, he was a number runner. Don King, one of the wildest lives ever.
Yeah.
He killed one man. 2, I might have killed 2.
Yeah.
Went to prison.
Sure.
Unbelievable guy. Unbelievable. Anyway, the newspaper in Cleveland where he lived misprinted the number once.
Oh.
And there was a massive deal. And he said it had to pay out for both, because he said if you lost the faith of the people, and he was bitter and angry, but he said he had to pay out, because if you lost, it's like, then they think, oh, you're because you might be able to get somebody at the Cleveland Plain dealer to fix. Anyway.
Yeah.
We got to have lottery integrity. We got to have it. We got to have it.
I know.
Prosecute to the fullest extent. But what a scheme.
No, it's
What a
incredible.
scheme. Absolutely incredible.
You know what? Now, every time the people that absolutely kill my soul by taking 10 minutes at the counter at my nearest, my Quick Way or whatever the heck it is, Circle K, I'm gonna look at them in a different light now.
Let's imagine
Are
this
they
thing.
part of an elaborate scheme to rig the lottery?
Go in for a coffee and a protein bar or something, and this guy standing there. I need 5,000 lottery. Oh, God damn. Come on, bro. It's like in a British accent. That is our show. We will be back next week to discuss whatever else happens in college athletics. Anything else maybe you hear. All I can say is, just trust. A shepherd never leaves his flock. Shepherd never leaves his flock out in the wilderness. It'll all work out. We will talk to you later.